Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. My name is Josh Breslow, and I want to get you right back into some of the big headlines that we are covering on this Wednesday. And this is a big one here as the search continues for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show co-host Savanah Guthrie, now in its fourth day. Sheriff Chris Nanos in Pima County, Arizona, now saying there is, quote, no credible evidence that indicates this was targeted. The sheriff Sunday. Now, the sheriff's office responded saying, quote, we have not released specific time frames related to that device, end quote. Asked about any surveillance cameras in or around the home, the sheriff's office says the house, quote, was equipped with several cameras and investigators are working to figure out if there's any footage that exists. As for DNA evidence found at the scene, Sheriff Nano says, quote, nothing has been identified that would point to a person of interest and, quote, no suspects have been identified. The sheriff clarifying the timeline of events during a news conference, saying at this point they have no idea where she could be.
9:45, 9:30, 9:45, we were told she was left at her home by the family. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the family got notice from somebody at church that she was not at church. They went to the home, found her to be missing. That's the timeline. From Saturday night, 9:45, we'll say, to Sunday morning, 11 o'clock.
Do you believe she's still in this area, or is there somewhere else?
We don't know where she is. So you'd be like any investigation. You start from the point of where we last saw her, and we work out. And we're working as far out as we can go. There are concerns at the house that concerned us from the early on part of this investigation, and that's all I will tell you. Yes, ma'am.
FBI Director Kash Patel speaking with Fox News last night, explaining that he had been made aware of those apparent ransom notes and that the FBI is involved and providing help to the Pima County Sheriff's Office.
There was a report today that TMZ received a ransom note. Are you aware of that? Or
the local authorities notified the FBI of it, and we are working with them in any manner they choose. But remember, they're the lead right now, and we have to respect that, but we are there to help them in any way we can, on ransom notes or otherwise.
Yeah, the sheriff got to, we believe she was taken from the home, and you're assisting them in their efforts.
Absolutely. We're on the ground there with them.
And Fox News posting this just a short time ago saying presidential promise. Trump says he will personally call Savanah Guthrie and offer additional federal assistance following her mother's apparent abduction in Arizona. Trump said, quote, I think it's terrible. I'm going to call Savanah Guthrie later on. I think it's a terrible thing, very unusual situation, but we're going to find out, end quote. Now, there is a lot to this investigation. Again, now in day 4. I want to bring in Jillian Snyder, retired NYPD officer. She's a resident senior fellow at the R Street Institute and teaches at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Thank you so much, Jillian, as always, for taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Morning, Josh.
And I wanted to kind of start off broadly here based on your law enforcement experience, your criminal justice experience. Explain to me what stands out to you about all of this, because there is a lot known, but there's also a lot that we don't know.
Right now, the sheriff is withholding some information from the public, and that serves a really significant purpose. You and I have broken down a lot of other cases where there was a person of interest or a suspect at large. There was a victim that we had already recovered. So at that point, that person was just on the run. Here we have a victim, and we don't know where she is. So the sheriff's office is going to be very withholding, only for the fact that we need to find this woman. And he has to corroborate a lot of evidence. We've heard about ransom notes or potential ransom notes. I actually heard this morning that there was potentially a secondary ransom note circulating that went to a media station in Arizona. So until the authenticity of all of those things have been met, they really have to be careful with what they release, because they don't want to put out anything that's infactual or wrong.
And the sheriff said that she didn't leave voluntarily. In general, what kinds of evidence would usually lead investigators to that conclusion? We know, of course, there was DNA, blood, all of that was found at the scene, so I'm sure that kind of played a role. But what evidence are they looking at to make that conclusion?
Well, as you just said, there was DNA, there was blood droplets from what I heard outside the door. They have not yet confirmed who that belongs to. But more importantly, we are hearing reports of forced entry. So that was going to be your telltale sign right there that something was wrong or there was criminality afoot if there's forced entry. We also know that Nancy Guthrie did not bring her wallet, her cell phone, her Apple Watch, her car was there. We believe her medicine was still on scene. So all of those things a lucid person would think to bring with them if they were voluntarily leaving their home. So putting that together with the DNA found inside the home, with also the Ring doorbell camera that seemingly is missing, all of these things point to wrongdoing or crime. So I think we have to just sit back and wait, hope that the sheriff's office working in collaboration with the FBI, and I heard Border Patrol is also involved, they're going to have to piece together this scene. But right now, I would be confident saying that Nancy Guthrie did not leave of her own volition.
I have to imagine that it's fairly common when there is a situation like this and investigators don't know where somebody is, that they ask neighbors to check their surveillance video. Is that fairly common? Because we've heard the sheriff say at each and every one of these news conferences, hey, if you're out there, if you're watching us, if you live anywhere in the area, please check your surveillance video.
It's very common, especially because more and more people are equipping their homes with external cameras. A lot of people have the Ring doorbell cameras, but some have them on their garage. I know I have like 3 outside cameras on my home. I have in the front yard, the backyard, my garage door, just in case anything did happen. Honestly, we put them out there so packages don't get taken, but we are seeing more and more people equipping their homes with at least 1 camera, usually at the front door. And those are critical pieces of evidence in investigations like this when we're trying to establish a timeline. Now, from what I've read so far, it looks like they're looking for any video evidence between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. That's what I've heard. And I think that's because they are starting to narrow down that timeline window. So anyone that lives on that block or in the general vicinity, they may have picked up something that they don't even know is on their cloud storage. And we all know that cloud storage, if you pay for it, you're going to have that for a long time. So I encourage anyone that does live in the area to check through their cloud storage on their Ring doorbell or any of their external facing cameras to see if they've picked up anything. A stranger, it's not common to be walking around at 1, 2, 3 in the morning on a Sunday morning. So that could be crucial evidence.
One thing that the sheriff has also mentioned time and time again, he said that Nancy Guthrie is, quote, mentally sharp. She's alert. He made sure that folks out there knew she didn't have anything such as maybe Alzheimer's, dementia, none of that. Why is that a critical piece of information that the public needs to know?
That's really crucial. I know when I was a police officer, we would get a lot of calls for missing people, elderly people, and a lot of them did suffer from some kind of cognitive impairment, whether it be dementia or Alzheimer's. That changes the entire dynamic of the investigation, because at that point, we could possibly think that they, in a disoriented way, they just wandered off on their own and they didn't know where they were going or what they were doing. So in the fact that this Nancy Guthrie is lucid, of sound mind, and does know of her surroundings and what she's doing, we know that she didn't just leave. Again, the evidence that we have so far, the forced entry, her leaving all of her personal belongings behind, and knowing that she does not suffer from any cognitive impairment, that tells us that she was most likely taken or abducted.
Savanah Guthrie is very well known. She has been the Today Show co-host for a very long time. People are aware of who she is. So when a case involves a high-profile figure or family, does that change, based in your experience, maybe how investigators approach all of this?
High-profile cases are generally a little harder to manage from a law enforcement perspective. Now, I know that the sheriff has not come out with 100% assurity and said that this was not a targeted attack. I mean, we're leaning towards it was not. It's weird. I saw an interview this morning from a neighbor of Nancy Guthrie who didn't even know that her mother was Savanah Guthrie. So I'm not sure if it was like highly publicized in her immediate vicinity or in her residential neighborhood, but most people based on the last name could put 2 and 2 together. But when you have a high profile case, it does expand the suspect pool, because now, was this some kind of retaliation or targeted against Savanah Guthrie? We don't know that. So it will change the overall dynamics in that the sheriff working with the FBI is going to need to look at any potential leads. They will have to go through Savannah's history as well. Has she gotten any hate mail or emails that were targeting her, saying threatening things to her? That is going to, again, change the way in which law enforcement investigates this crime.
You always hear about the first several hours and first several days of a missing persons case like this being so critical. Explain to me what happens here in the first several hours and first couple days and how things change as we are now in day 4.
Statistically, in the first 48 to 72 hours, law enforcement sees that as the biggest and most crucial window. The FBI has actually reported that in adult abduction cases, 70% of individuals are recovered or found or voluntarily returned within that 48 to 72 hour window. So we know how important it is. That is when you're going to get the most credible leads, most credible witness statements. That's when you're going to have the opportunity to gather forensic evidence without possible contamination, get any type of surveillance that's available in the community. So again, 48 to 72 hours is that golden window, but that's not to say that since we're in day 4 that all is lost. It just means that that crucial window is closing and that law enforcement is now going to be under additional pressure to get as much information as they possibly can.
Jillian Snyder, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and helping to discuss this. Of course, we're all watching this very closely. Also important to note that the sheriff did say that she's without her medication. So if she's without that for a while, it could be quote unquote fatal. That's according to the sheriff. Now, he's not going to be holding a news conference today unless there are any major developments. Jillian, anything we missed that you want to make sure that we cover here before I let you go?
The only thing I want to say is I did see on several media outlets this morning, people are a little upset that not more information has been released. I think we have to recognize, and again, I could speak from the law enforcement perspective, that there is a woman out there that we're trying to find. So the sheriff is going to be very mindful of that and not put anything out into the public ether that could possibly jeopardize this investigation or jeopardize her coming home safely. So I want to remind anyone who does have any tips or lives in the area or may have heard something, please call police, but also be respectful that this is an ongoing investigation.
Yeah, when I interviewed the sheriff yesterday, he made it clear they have to overall protect the integrity of the investigation. So all of that makes sense. They can only provide so much information. Jillian Snyder, thank you again for being here with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.